It all started when Noah, a quiet, reserved guy who worked at a tech store in a small town, began to notice something strange. It wasn't anything big, just little things. His coworker, Mark, had been acting off lately. It was subtle at first. Mark would always seem a little too still when they were having lunch together. Sometimes, his eyes would linger a little too long on Noah, like he was studying him. One evening, Noah saw something odd. Mark, normally punctual, had stayed late at the store. Noah decided to stay too, catching up on some work. As he walked past the back storage room, he noticed the door slightly ajar, with Mark inside, whispering to someone. Noah couldn't make out what was being said, but something about it didn't sit right. The next day, Mark wasn't at work. Noah didn't think much of it at first. People take sick days, after all. But Mark hadn't texted anyone, and when Noah checked in with their boss, he was told Mark had abruptly quit, leaving no explanation behind. That's when Noah's curiosity started to gnaw at him. He tried to shrug it off, but the thoughts kept coming back. He'd seen something in Mark's eyes that day. It wasn't human. A chill ran down Noah's spine as he sat alone in the small break room, his mind racing. What if Mark hadn't just quit? What if he had left because he couldn't stay? It wasn't long before Noah started noticing other strange things. In the days that followed, a few other employees seemed to vanish without any trace. And when he saw them again, they looked different, distant, their eyes colder. Noah tried asking around, but no one seemed to care. The town was small, and people came and went all the time. Yet, it was the way they acted when they came back that bothered him. One night, when Noah was closing the store alone, the lights flickered, and the door swung open. The air felt heavier than usual. He heard a faint hum, almost like an electrical buzzing sound. He turned toward the door, and standing there, under the dim glow of the streetlights, was Mark. But this Mark wasn't the same. He looked older somehow, his face more drawn, his eyes sharp and unblinking. Noah froze, unsure of what to say. Mark's lips barely moved when he spoke, his voice distant, almost mechanical. You shouldn't have seen it. But now you're part of it. Before Noah could react, Mark was gone. Just like that. Vanished into the night. The following days were a blur. Noah couldn't sleep. He couldn't focus. He couldn't shake the feeling that he was being watched. He kept replaying Mark's words in his head, "You're part of it." But part of what? The town seemed normal, at least on the surface. But Noah's eyes were opened to the strange behavior of the people around him. Everyone seemed a little too calm, a little too perfect, like they were playing a role. It wasn't just the disappearing co-workers anymore. It was the way everyone acted. There were whispers in the corners of stores, in dark alleyways. Faces that seemed familiar but wrong. Noah decided to investigate. He knew he couldn't keep pretending that nothing was happening. He began talking to the few people he trusted, asking questions about Mark's sudden disappearance. But whenever he got too close to the truth, people changed the subject. It was like there was an invisible wall they couldn't cross. Then, one day, he met Sarah. She was new to the town and worked as a librarian. There was something about her, something different in the way she looked at him. They got talking, and as the conversation shifted to Mark, Noah noticed her eyes widen. "You don't know, do you?" Sarah whispered, glancing around nervously. "It's not just Mark. It's all of them. They've been here for years." Noah frowned. "Who are they?" "They're not human," Sarah said, her voice trembling. "At least, not anymore. They've come from another world, and they've taken over. They wear human faces, walk like us, talk like us, but they're not like us. And I think you're next." The words hit Noah like a punch. It all started to make sense, the strange disappearances, the unnatural calm, the way people would stare at him when he wasn't looking. Sarah led him to an old abandoned building on the outskirts of town. It was a place Noah had passed 1,000 times, but never once thought to stop. Inside, the air was heavy with dust and decay. But there, in the middle of the dark room, was something that chilled him to the bone. A strange device, humming quietly, its lights flashing in a sequence Noah didn't understand. Sarah explained it was a signal. A signal that called them. "The aliens," she said, used it to communicate with their kind, hidden beneath the human shell. And the longer someone stayed in town, the more likely they were to get chosen. Noah's heart raced as he glanced around. Chosen for what? To be like them. To become one of them. A cold sweat broke out on Noah's forehead. He realized then that Mark's disappearance wasn't just about quitting his job. It was a sign. A sign that Noah was being pulled into something far bigger than he could have ever imagined. Noah's mind spun with the weight of everything he had learned. He didn't want to believe it, but there was too much evidence. He felt the walls closing in on him, like the entire town was a stage, and he was the only one who didn't know his lines. Sarah told him there was a way out. There was a final chance to break free, to leave the town and never look back. But it wouldn't be easy. The signal was growing stronger, and the aliens were getting closer. Noah was running out of time. "I can't do this alone," he admitted, his voice low. "You're not alone," Sarah said, her hand steadying his. "We've been watching them for years. We've found a way to fight back." Together, they devised a plan. It wasn't perfect, but it was their only shot. They had to destroy the device, to cut off the signal, to make the aliens believe they had failed. But there was a catch: Noah had to do it. He had to go into the heart of the building, face the signal, and destroy it before the aliens realized what was happening. That night, under the cover of darkness, Noah made his way to the building with Sarah. The streets were empty, the town eerily quiet. His pulse hammered in his ears as he approached the building. The device glowed brightly now, its hum vibrating in the air like a living thing. Noah took a deep breath and stepped inside. He could feel it now, the eyes watching him, waiting for him to make a move. He had to act fast. He reached for the tool Sarah had given him, a small, metallic object designed to short-circuit the signal. He had one shot. But just as he was about to press the button, the door slammed shut behind him. Noah spun around, his heart leaping in his chest. There, standing in the doorway, was Mark. His face was expressionless, his eyes cold and alien. "Noah," Mark said, his voice devoid of emotion. "It's too late." Noah's hand tightened around the tool, but before he could move, Mark spoke again. "You've already been chosen." In that moment, Noah realized there was no escaping it. He wasn't just fighting to save himself. He was fighting for humanity itself. The final showdown was about to begin.